it's just simply like existing. Like you have to eat food and you have to have fresh air. That's the way I feel. It's just a very natural thing, and it's nothing that has been acquired, like playing an instrument or something. It's just a very natural physical thing. Well, I don't have any desire to do anything else. Although they're quite personal, they're not that obscure. Many people can listen to them and hear things that they feel is a part of their life. I'm sure of it. I think they're not used to it, but I firmly believe that they do want to hear it. So we're going to persist. I mean, it hasn't really been that much of a battle for us because people have been very accepting so far. But I'm really convinced that people want it. People are really tired of this non-human approach. It's very boring and it doesn't really mean anything to anybody. People just persistently wait for somebody to say something, and that's so important, and that's why we're here. So where does it leave us? It sounds very brutal and perhaps slightly dangerous. There's a kind of underlying innocence in virtually everything, so I just really throw them open, and however people interpret them is really entirely up to them. You just see something that you want to see in a specific thing, and people hear things that perhaps aren't really there, but they just want to hear it anyway. So, which of course is a frightening thing to dwell upon. I just, I suppose really for the type of thing that I do, the private life that I lead is really unbelievably peaceful and concealed. So people always really find it quite extraordinary because, I don't know, they really expect it to be a wild, insane individual. But I think that's another reason why we're so important, because most people in this business are really quite stereotypical popular figures, and they're very outspoken and very abrasive, but I think there's room for people who really aren't like that and perhaps slightly shy and inverted and not quite sure about many things. I think it's time for a different voice to be heard. I just suddenly woke up and I was here. I think that's the case with many of us, so I really didn't make any choices. I'm just here, and fate shoves you into things and fate drags you out of things and silly things like that. I really don't believe that we have any control over our destinies. I think perhaps we like to feel that we do. Over very small, insignificant things like the colour of socks we wear, etc., yes, we do, but no, not really. Most people don't make choices about their life. They're just thrust into it, and here we are, and we just have to get on with it, and sometimes we have to accept our lot, but sometimes we don't. I'm not kind of standing here and saying, look, everybody simply has to live the same way that I do, otherwise the world will end in a week. I'm not saying that. I just think it's time for a different voice to be heard and different things to be said. That is why it's so important to me that every word that I write is are words that haven't been heard before. I don't mean words in the English language, but lines and sentences that just haven't been heard before. I don't feel that many people are really comfortable and many people really know what they're thinking about or talking about or even doing. So I think the basic message that we have about everything is simply that people don't have to be cool about their attitudes, and they should just simply relax with themselves and simply do what they want to do, obviously as long as it doesn't harm people. But I'm really tired of people being false and pretending that life is, I don't know, depressing or happy or anything extreme. I just want people to relax, basically, and just kind of look at themselves and really accept themselves. I seem to be locked indoors for years and years and years, and I don't really feel that I ever had a youth of any description, or perhaps of some description, but it's a very frightening description. So I think that really gave me some strength and made me feel determined to really, one way or another, go down in history. I'm not quite sure which way it's going to be, but I feel that we've begun something, and I'm just going to kick very hard to be heard and just really work as hard as possible. It first occurred to me as possibly the most perfect thing. It was quite romantic, but it really wasn't a consideration. It was just like something quite harmonious that I thought at a very early age, when I actually realized what it was, it just seemed like a very kind of a nice little thing to do, believe it or not. It sounds quite strange, but that's the way I felt about it. But I think at the moment it's quite futile. and people should persist, and we shouldn't let silly things get the better of us and destroy us. I think we have to be strong about these things. I'm just going to get something out of this kind of ragbag of an existence. Success means that people are actually listening to you and people know about you, and that's why it's important, not for any capitalistic reasons, but really that what we do is so worthwhile that we just have to be heard and we have to be seen. We want to reach as many people as possible. We don't want to hide, and we don't want to kind of make things difficult for ourselves. We're not going to avoid success if it is there. It just sounds really so incredibly pompous, but it's really quite true that I really feel that the things that I have to say people want to hear. Now, if I really didn't believe it, I wouldn't do it, and I wouldn't waste people's time, because it's just very boring of me to do that. But I really believe that we have something very worthwhile, and it drags us all back to a very basic human element. It's really not about computers and such things. It really is about the human heart and just stirring people and making people realize lots of things about their lives and making people feel joyous and a sense of communication. We reach people, and people feel very moved, and people feel alive. So that is really good. I just literally take each day as it comes, which is possibly the best way. You avoid disappointments and you avoid any traps and snares. So one day at a time, I think, which sounds quite virtually religious and poetic, but perhaps it is. It's the best way to take life. It's the only way. I mean, in the nuclear age that we live in, it's the only way that you can live. But you can live positively this way. I want to do it.